The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Mets baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and we're here to both do a postmortem on 2018 and introduce the new general manager and find out what the haps are. I've got Marty Rose and Robert Cole here. They are the master of the Mets. So, how you doing, guys?
Doing good, Ralph.
Very good, thank you.
Good. It's an adjustment not having baseball. I didn't realize we'd have to go cold turkey back in June. But it was quite a year, and anything to start it out with, I'm wondering if there's anything about the past season that you guys wanted to talk about, anything we haven't covered, anything you want to elaborate on, clear things up, if you will. Start with you, Robert.
Well, we were pretty down on the Mets most of the year, myself very much so. Yet there were some bright spots. Jeff McNeil, Ahmad Rosario, Brandon Nimmo, Michael Conforto, and right there you have a fairly decent building block, for an everyday lineup. The Mets starting pitching is probably the best in the league as long as they're healthy, and that's always a big question mark. And, there were some bright spots. There were some things to look forward to, although the way the Mets started the year, we were so happy and, thrilled. And then, it was like a roller coaster just going straight downhill with no brakes. So we, all of us were pretty down. But you look back now, there were some very bright spots and things to look forward to.
Okay. Marty.
Well, I think that if you throw the month of June out, you can't do that, but or if you just look at the second half, they didn't play badly in the second half. I think they played pretty.
Marty, are you cutting in and out, or is it my phone?
I'll try to speak a little louder. No, I was saying that the second half of the year, they played well, I thought, and Conforto, who had the slow start, finished strongly, and the biggest thing is that all the starting pitchers were healthy at the end of the year. And going into next year, we already know who the starting I think Rosario is improved a lot.
Yeah, I think that's Marty going in and out.
Yeah, Marty, I think you are going in and out.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Yeah.
I'll call back on another phone.
Okay. We'll keep it going a little bit. I want to reiterate on what Marty said. Not only were the starting pitchers healthy, but they were all in some sort of a groove, and I will include Vargas in there. Robert, is there was there ever a reason stated for Vargas's slow start? And it wasn't just slow, it was disastrous. His reason, more so, the reason he came around so, had he been hurt at all during that time? Were they covering up an injury?
Well, he was injured twice, Ralph. Coming out of spring training, he was injured. He missed probably the first 5 or 6 starts of the year. He came back, and he was awful. He went back out again with another injury. And when he came back from the second injury, he just turned it around. His last, I'd say, 7 or 8 starts were quite good. I mean, most of those starts were what they now call quality starts, at least 5 innings. And he pitched quite well. So, that last probably month and a half, 2 months, he pitched well. Wheeler, became a godsend. I mean, Wheeler was, if it wasn't for DeGrom, Wheeler would have been the ace of the staff the second half of the year. And, the only one that really struggled a bit was Steven Matz.
Yeah, and even he, towards the end of the year, came on a bit.
Yes, he did.
So, I think we have Marty back.
I'm back.
Now, we were just talking about how through it all we had, at the end of the year, 5 pretty good, as Larry David would say, pretty good starting pitchers. And
three top of the line,
Right. And
really,
we were just talking about Vargas and Matz coming towards the end of the year. They were giving good outings, and yes, 3 really top of the line guys. If enough can't be said about DeGrom's year.
Unbelievable.
And the frustrations he must have felt in getting absolutely no support. There was a time there where it was like 7-8 starts in a row of, you mentioned, Robert, quality starts. They were beyond quality starts. You mentioned. So from that standpoint, it was encouraging. I think going into this year, the thing that I liked the best was the confidence that the new general manager has in saying, we're not going to rebuild, we're going to build. And he thinks that we're ready to be a contender at this point. Tell me, Marty, first, because I know you listened to an interview with him on fan radio in New York City, and you were impressed by the way he stood up to the host. So tell me about the new general manager, Marty Rose.
Yeah, well,
not that the new general manager is Marty Rose. It really should be Marty Rose. There was a comma. There was a comma in there. Just for the clarification of those Met fans who went, yes, we finally got a guy with a brain. No, I'm sorry. The other guy may have a brain too, but it's not like Marty's. Go ahead, Mert. Yeah,
well, some of the things he said were, we will win now and in the future. He wants to keep DeGrom as long as possible. Hopefully for a long time. He did play the game himself. He played at Stanford when he was in college. So, and he's been an agent for like 18 years. So he really knows a lot about the approach that different teams are having as far as which teams are going for it now, which teams may be not going for it at all, which teams may be a couple of years away. So, it seems like he has a good grasp on a lot of the other teams, from his time as being an agent. So in that respect, it would help him. Also, he's going out to Arizona this week to see Alonso play. and he's going to speak to him. He said he hopes Alonso can win the job. He's going to speak to him and see, what his attitude is and what his feelings are, which is good, because I think we all hope that he can win that job at first base this year, which would be great, because I think he's got the most potential of any of the guys playing or trying to play first. On the interview that he had with Mike Francesa, Francesa just was, in my opinion, bullying him into trying to ask him things that he couldn't possibly answer right now. Like, okay, who's your fourth hitter in the lineup next year? Who's batting cleanup? How could you ask the guy that now? How could you do that? And he says, do you think you have a good team?
Philosophy and
do you think you have a good team? The guy says, yeah.
Right.
He says, Van Wagenen says, yeah, I think we have a good team. And Francesa jumps all over. That's a good team. What are you talking about? Blah. So it's interesting because, the Mets changed their radio affiliation this year. They went from WABC, where they've been the last few years, and they're going over to WCBS in New York, which is owned by the same group.
I thought they were on WOR radio.
Oh, not
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. They're on WOR. But this year, no, they're going back to they're going to CBS, which is the same company that owns the Fan. So that in the last few years, the Fan has not been able to get any Mets to come on their shows for any interviews because the team wouldn't allow it. But now they should be back this year since the team changed the affiliation, because the Fan is owned by the same company that owns CBS radio.
Okay.
But But anyway, I thought he answered the questions as best he could without getting specific, because you can't get specific at this time of the year. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
So he just
did they talk about the three-headed stool that they had going, and what would be the priority?
They didn't talk. They didn't talk much about that. Yeah, they didn't talk much about that. But what I saw today was that Minaya is going to be his top advisor, and it looks like Rico might not hang around. They're not sure. Yeah, that's what I saw today. It's kind of up to Rico and Ricciardi whether they want to stay or not. Right. So, nothing seems to be definite there. I guess they can shop around to see if they have any other offers. But, Minaya was named as top advisor.
Okay, guys, I want to ask you this, and I just saw one blurb about it, and at this point I may even be imagining that. Did the new GM have to recluse himself by contract with the Wilpons from negotiating with any of the players that he had as an agent, such as DeGrom? Was that part of the deal?
I did not see anything like that.
No, wasn't he part of a large company of agents?
Yeah. Oh, yes. He was.
So
and
there's
he
no
turned
reason
his
that
clients over. But I'm going to try to get that. I'm going to try to get that link. I think I read it on At Bat Baseball. MLB at bat, and
I mean, there's no reason that those guys can't stay with the company and just deal with another guy, you know.
But for some reason, I'm really pretty sure that I saw he was forced by contract to recluse himself from negotiating. Because it's his former company, how you gonna? It's like Halliburton and Cheney, for crying out loud, or you know how Trump has divested himself of all of it. Oh, never mind.
He has.
Sure.
I don't know where I blanked out there for a second. That was. But I think that's the case, and I'll try to back it up with a link to you guys later on.
Okay.
But very interesting if he can get. I said from the beginning, if the whole thing results in DeGrom signing an extension, I'll be happy. I think that's the one thing they have to build around is getting having him secure and in place, and you know you could then it comes down to you got Wheeler eventually, you got Syndergaard eventually.
Well, this is Wheeler's walk year, you know.
This coming
Wheeler's
yes.
walk year. The other guy's got another year or two.
Right. So, like with everything else in baseball these days, there's a very small envelope. I mean, we thought we lost it when Harvey went bad or whatever. I just hope they could put it together, because if they win, then you start getting sweetheart deals. Guys, you know, you win a couple of years, then a pitcher coming up for free agency or even a player would be more likely to want to stay if you could build a culture of winning and happiness. And so let's hope for the best. I really think it's in place. I think if you have a good double play combination, decent catching, and a good center fielder, now whether or not that third peg of that is in place, going to have to see. Lagares is coming back. He hasn't been able to stay healthy for any length of time.
No,
but
never.
I do remember when he was healthy and he put a complete year together, he won a Golden Glove.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, if you're going to base your whole thing on, well, we're doing good, like every other team, injuries are going to get us all, and if you could think that maybe we'll just have an average year of injuries, not you're never going to stay healthy for the full year. Everybody's not going to stay healthy, but these last few years with the Mets have been absolutely abhorrent. Which brings us to the number one poster boy for that, and that's Cespedes. Had his first heel operation. They're going to wait for, again, we talked about this. They're going to
wait. Had the second one also.
He had the second one.
Yes.
Yeah, he had the second one last week.
Last week, I think.
Yeah.
Good. Still a long way to go. You know,
sure.
Looking at June, July, optimistically, which means August, September, realistically.
Maybe. Could be earlier. I mean, I heard he could start baseball activity in March or April. So, you know, could see him in June. I would say at the earliest. But that would be nice if that happened, for sure.
Nice if that happens. Again, the one thing we didn't mention about positives for last year, Bruce came on towards the end of the year. And
yeah, after he got healthy, yes.
Right.
He had the two injuries. He had the foot injury and then the hip injury. And yeah, he did very well when he came back. So, another catcher became available. You know, did you hear that the Marlins Real Muto? Yeah, demanded a trade. So he's really good.
That would look good. I think the Braves expressed an interest in him as well.
There'd be a lot of teams interested in him.
Oh, yeah.
No question. I mean, the Dodgers would be salivating because Grandal's a free agent. He's also, I think he's run his course out there.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Again, I've asked you guys this, and we've always, we know what the Mets payroll has always been like. But this is the biggest free agent class to come out, if not the biggest, the best, quote, the best free agent class to come out, if not in the past 10 years, maybe ever. And there are two guys that stand out in my mind that I think for one reason or another, their price tag is really fallen. And start with Machado, who obviously he wants to be a shortstop his whole career. He is probably more well suited for third base, but he said enough things and did enough silly things in the playoffs and the weeks leading up to the playoffs, where it was estimated that the contract he'll sign for less money than he would have signed. In other words, he lost X number of dollars, millions of dollars, just more money than DiMaggio, Mantle, and Mays made combined in their entire career. He will have lost by just being the punk that he was. I guess that's a way to describe it. But could this mean that he could come at a cheap enough price that the Mets may say, we'll take a chance?
Well, to tell you the truth, Ralph, I would rather them not do that. The Mets have a shortstop. They have some other players that are young. The last thing you need is a divisive person like him. I tell you the truth, if they have money to spend, I'd rather see them go after somebody like a Zach Britton or David Robertson, both who were free agents this year. I mean, the Mets definitely need some bullpen, and I'd rather see them spend their money that way, to tell you the truth.
Okay. Marty?
Yeah, I agree. I don't want him. I don't like him. I mean, I don't know how anybody could say what he said. How could it's not in my character to hustle? What, in the World Series? I mean, how could you say that? I mean, and then he steps on a guy's leg.
I know, he takes the inside route.
Are you kidding me?
First base.
I mean,
guys covering. Yeah.
Other people will say they don't care. He's a great player. Blah blah blah. I don't want him. I think we should let Rosario continue to develop. And I like what I saw the second half from him.
Oh yeah,
I do too. But if say we weren't talking about the guy's character and we were talking about his on-field ability, wouldn't he be a great third baseman?
Well, yeah, no doubt.
But he doesn't want to play third.
Well, right. And the Mets are not going to pay that much. They're not going to pay that much for a guy again anytime soon.
And I think the Yankees have the inside track on him, to tell you the truth. I was listening to Michael Kay the other day, and Michael Kay was making excuses for him that, you know, the Yankees had Robinson Cano, and Robinson Cano didn't hustle, but he came and played hard every day, and that's all you can really expect from somebody. And, you know, if he goes anywhere, I'm thinking Yankees.
I think the Yankees would be better off with Harper because they need the left-handed power. They're becoming too right-handed. And, you know, they got.
But they just, today they re-signed Gardner.
Yeah, but
he's not a starter. I mean,
he's a left fielder anyway.
But you already have,
McCutcheon's
already have quite a few outfielders.
You have Hicks.
Ellsbury is still on their roster.
That's true.
And you got to do something with him. You have Hicks. You have that kid Frazier, if he can ever stay healthy. So they have a glut of outfielders in reality. If they were going to go anywhere, I would think they would probably be going after Machado, not Harper. And I think Harper would feel more comfortable in Los Angeles. And I have a feeling that that's where he's going to go. To the Dodgers.
Isn't his father a Yankee fan?
His father's a Yankee fan, yes.
Well, so he was brought up that way.
But I think he kind of got a taste of what it's like in the East. You know, it's not easy. You know, even in Washington, which is not the toughest town, it was pretty rough on him. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he winds up with the Dodgers or the Angels even, for that matter.
Another guy who didn't have a great year last year, and his value, if he given the timing of everything, has slipped a little bit. Now, would Harper be a name that would look good, penciled in center field for the Mets? And is there any chance of that?
Ralph, I think you have a better chance of being elected president than the Mets going out and getting somebody like Harper or Machado. Honestly,
okay,
I just don't.
They're not going to. No, me neither. They're not going to pay for either one of those guys.
And they're also so hesitant to pull the trigger. The last couple of times they pulled the trigger, look what's happened to them. Even with Cespedes, Cespedes gave some value, but once they pulled the trigger on that big contract, they haven't had him. They brought Bruce back. Bruce had all kinds of problems. I just think they're very, very gun-shy to, put a big bundle of money into one of these guys.
Yeah. Let's not forget, though, that Cespedes, they did put some money out initially on Cespedes, got him to the World Series.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, they got value from him in the beginning. They gave him the one contract, okay, with the opt-out clause, and he opted out. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of were bidding against themselves in reality. They could have waited a little bit longer, but, I think Sandy felt that he had to make a splash, and, the entire fan base, me included, wanted them to sign him, and they did.
Right. None of us were against any of those signings, including Bruce and Vargas. No. So that's where injuries come up, and that's where I say we have been snake bit the last 2.5 years by the injury bug, and I look for just by the odds. I said the exact same thing last year at this time. Look for that to turn around just by the law of averages.
Yeah, and look what's happened already. The pitcher they picked up in the Cabrera deal,
I know,
had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
Delorme,
let's give Cabrera again. He was probably their MVP over the course of the year.
For sure.
Position player wise, he had a terrific year, and I wish we would have gotten more for him, but who can foretell that? You wonder if you got damaged goods, but how are you going to prove that in today's day and age?
And be honest with you, too, I would have no objection if they brought Cabrera back. It's kind of, as the utility guy. Now, I don't know if he'd want to do that, but, he can play second, he can play third. I mean, the Phillies had him playing shortstop down the stretch again.
Right. It wasn't that long ago that he was the shortstop for the Mets.
Correct.
We were happy to have him over Flores.
Correct.
So,
and he is a free agent, so I mean, I wouldn't be, I would not object if they brought him back on a reasonable contract.
Now, Flores got hurt himself towards the end of the year. Is he recovering? Are they looking to bring him back?
I believe for another year.
Yeah, I don't think he's a free agent yet.
No, I think they still have control over him. And then how about our boy Dom Smith? Okay, went to play winter ball, and after about 6 games, he left because he wasn't happy with the way they were using him.
He went to play left field, and they wouldn't play him in left field for some reason.
Yeah, they wanted him at first base.
Yeah. I think he sees the writing on the wall about first base.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I wonder whose fault that was. Maybe his agent didn't have clear communication with the team. Where was it, Puerto Rico?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's a good example, though, of a prospect is a prospect, and he can become a suspect very quickly, and he's more likely to become a suspect than a contributing player. So with Alonso, it's different. He seems to have more power from the get-go, and one of you guys was telling me about the progression he made in the Arizona Fall League in
Marty
terms of defense.
Oh yeah, one of those. I guess it was Rico. It could have been Rico or Ricciardi. One of them said he had improved dramatically. His defense is no longer a question, I think is the way they put it. So, if that's the case, then, I don't see why he can't make the team with a good spring training.
Right.
Or at least a short stint at Syracuse,
Right.
Yeah. And if you think about it, I know I'm skipping around, but if you think about it, if you get Canseco back, if Lagares is healthy,
Canseco. We have Canseco?
Canseco. Did I say that again?
Yes.
That's all right. That's all right. It's early signs of something. I don't know. I'm not going to, no self-diagnosis, but, and it's been coming on since I was 11. So it's no surprise to anybody who knows me. It's not going to be a shock. I'm just going to fade off. It's just a slower fade than most. You get those guys coming back, and you have a glut of outfielders, which means maybe that you can turn some of those guys over and help build your bullpen a little bit.
Yeah. Well, there's also some, there's some free agents out there, like Robert said. David Robertson, although he makes a lot of money. I like this kid from Colorado, this Ottavino guy. I believe he's from, I don't know, he was born in Brooklyn. I don't know if he ever lived in New York long, but he had good numbers last year in Colorado, considering that it was Colorado, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
I wonder, and we talked about this during the season when Familia went to the A's, I wonder if there's been talk about re-signing him, and hopefully they can reproduce what the Yankees did with Chapman, keep some prospects along the line, and re-sign the guy. Did they get much from the A's? I don't even remember for Familia.
No, not a whole lot.
Okay.
They got that guy, Bobby. Relief pitcher, and he got hurt after 2 or 3 appearances.
Oh, that sounds about right. He got to the 3rd appearance, which is a surprise, but that's okay. How about, and here's a name out of the past who has been reinstated, Mejia. Any talk about him whatsoever? Is he under contract?
No, I haven't heard anything either.
Okay.
I assume he must be playing winter ball someplace, but if he plans on making a comeback of any kind, you would think he'd have to be playing winter ball to show what he has, if he has anything. But
right.
I wouldn't count on him. After 3 strikes, I don't see it.
Okay.
How much confidence could the guy have in himself if he felt he had to do what he did 3 times? So.
Yeah, not just 2, but 3. And it shows us what the definition of a lifetime suspension is.
Yeah.
What was Mejia's first name?
I don't remember.
I don't know either.
I'm trying to look him up right now.
I think it was not again. Mejia?
Not again, Mejia.
Me?
Maybe I imagined that one too. But
Henry,
I am gonna find that link to the article that said that that the GM is going to recluse himself, and then I'll be complete. How about that? Anything else you guys have in mind? Haven't covered? Want to elaborate on in any way?
Yeah, at this time of the year, there's not that much. So, I just, I think we got to have a positive attitude about the new GM and give him a chance. You can't dump on him before he even does anything. So, Fred's very excited. Jeff Wilpon said he hasn't seen his father this excited about a hire in a long ever, maybe. So he must have impressed them. He had to impress them a lot.
And I will give them some credit because they are thinking outside the box a little bit, and that may come back to really help them. Marty, you put it was so succinct, and you put it so clearly. His knowledge of which teams are going for it now and which teams are going to go in the future, you couldn't get that unless you were coming from his background. You couldn't get that.
Right, from negotiating with the other teams, yeah. Absolutely.
Right, and I don't think there have been many agents. There have been general managers who have come from the broadcast booth or this, that, and the other thing, or managers. I don't think there have been many general managers that have come from being an agent.
Not in baseball. It's happened in hockey. It has happened in hockey, but not in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
I was reading too that a lot of the dissatisfaction is coming from other agents right now and from the Major League Players Association about this hire, because they're now concerned that if this starts happening, players aren't going to want to bare their souls to their agents, because all of a sudden next year maybe they can use it against them. And this may be what you were saying, Ralph. The Wilpons may not want him negotiating with any of his former clients, because these guys may be a little hesitant, to deal with him, because he knows things about them.
Mm-hmm. True.
Very good point.
And I was just reading that Scott Boras, who is Michael Conforto's agent, is very, very upset about this. He said, agents know things about players. Now he's going to be negotiating with these players, and he can use some of this stuff against them. So the other agents in the Major League Players Association is quite alarmed. And the head of the Major League Players Association said, we and the players are watching this very, very closely.
Sure. Yeah, he did represent 9 Mets. 9.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Very
so,
true.
This in fact could work against the Mets as far as getting players to come there.
Right. Absolutely.
We'll see.
So
we will see.
We also have to watch.
Remember when baseball was an escape from business? I know that Mert and I, growing up, used to love to read the back page first.
I still do.
Sure.
I still do.
Right. And now the lead story is always something about business. And I guess it was always that way, but as kids we were sheltered from it. And I just miss the days of innocence. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll drink to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
one final question of Robert Cole, and that is Chaim
Bloom.
Chaim Bloom. Where is he going? Is he going to stay put in Tampa? He was the second candidate, or finished second. And did they talk about why the choice was made not to hire Bloom, or did the new guy just overwhelm him?
First of all, Bloom is one of the top candidates for both the San Francisco Giants GM job and the Baltimore Orioles job. He's considered very, very high on both their lists. The only thing I can think of is that, Van Wegenen probably was able to talk other than, statistics and stuff like that. That's Chaim Bloom's main thing, the going into statistics and all that kind of stuff, sabermetrics.
And I thought he was a bit of a pioneer with that opener pitching philosophy, and I wonder if that, because they have Callaway and Island in place, I wonder if that totally screwed him from the standpoint of the Mets weren't going to try that.
It's very possible. It's very possible. Van Wegenen caught me by surprise when I heard that he was, one of the 2 guys being considered. So,
right.
I really can't say why the Wilpons went in that direction. Because,
well, whatever they did and however it works out, I will give the Wilpons some credit for thinking outside of the box a little bit. That doesn't hurt. And for a guy set in his way like Wilpon Sr., to make a move like that, there's been a lot of things over the years that have turned me off to those guys, but I'll give them credit. Last thing I want to ask before we close it out is, how is Sandy recuperating? And hopefully the prognosis is good for him. Has anything been said about that?
I
haven't heard anything, Ralph. I think he's probably progressing okay. Hasn't been much said.
Okay. Has there been an official parting of the waves, or how are they handling that?
Yeah, well, his contract is up, I guess. So,
I'm trying to look now. I have not seen anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, before we do close, Ralph, I think, based on the news yesterday about Willie McCovey, I would just like to say that there's a handful of guys that when they came up to the plate, you just had the feeling, how far is the ball going to go? And he was one of those guys. It scared the crap out of you every time he came up.
Right.
And big loss. Apparently, you know better than I do from being out there, but apparently he was a great man as well as a great player.
He always had a smile on his face, and for guys who have gotten a tough break, he has been through horrible hell with his knees. He's had 12 operations on each knee over the years. He's had a number of knee replacements that didn't take, had to do it over again. He
was in a wheelchair for a long time.
For a long time, like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's, you don't want to be attitudinally, this was the best guy in the whole world. I mean, he was always positive, but a hell of a competitor. I did kind of a tribute show to him. I had Michael Duca, who's a longtime Giant employee, official scorer, and I had Skip Lockwood, who pitched to him the show earlier on, and exactly like you said, he's talking about how hard can the ball. You talk about exit velocity. They didn't keep the stats in those days. Unbelievably hard. The guy hit the ball. He and Dick Allen were guys that Skip Lockwood referred to as two of the hardest hitting
for sure
players. You're absolutely yes. So rest in peace, Willie Mack. He was an 80. He's 80, and people think, well, he's 80 years old. No, that's young nowadays. We're in a day and age where people are living a long time, and for whatever you say about Willie Mays, he's one of the most bitter guys in the world. He's living to be 87, and McCovey was absolutely the darling of San Francisco Giant baseball.
Yep.
San Francisco never took to Willie Mays like they did McCovey.
I still remember 1959 when they brought him up late in the year. I think he only played like 70 games, and he won the Rookie of the Year.
That's absolutely right. And he hit a home run or 3 triples in one game off Robin Roberts.
He went 4 for 4 in his first game.
Right.
4 for 4
here's a stat, because here's a stat that you'll love, guys. In 1959, he hit 19 triples between San Francisco and Phoenix. 19 triples for a guy that you don't think of as being very fast. But he was a big guy with these long Dave Kingman-like strides. And once he got it in gear, he could really move.
Wow.
So,
that's great.
And just to show the kind of ball player he was, he forced the Giants to trade Orlando Cepeda because he was so good.
That's true. They had a trade. They tried them both in left field. They were both horrible defensively in left. They'd step on their own feet. And when they traded Cepeda for Sadecki, on paper, and again, you don't play these games on paper, but on paper that seemed like a pretty decent trade. Sadecki was dominant and ironically helped the Mets later on in '73. No Sadecki, no New York Mets winning that pennant.
That's correct. Very true.
So it's funny how baseball is. And there's a guy everybody's going to miss.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. We'll be back
in a couple of weeks.
2 weeks. How about that? Couple of
Good.
weeks.
Very good.
Beautiful. Thank you,
Right.
gentlemen. Robert Cole, Marty Rose. I'm Ralph Tyko, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, the weak link of it all, Ralph Tyko. And we will be back. Thank you very much for listening. All in all, it was an interesting year for the Mets. That's the postmortem, and we have hopes for the future. Thanks, guys. Be well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Adios.
Right.
Good night.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.